everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Burning Question series by Fantasy Football Scout. It is good to be back with my good friend Harry and co-host. It's been a while, Harry. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, good, thank you. Nice to be back, the two of us. Yeah, it's good. Nice to be here. I've got a lot to talk about this week, and you're on Wildcard as well, so should be a good pod.
Yeah, excited. By the way, if the volume seems to be off, please let us know in the chat. If the volume's okay, you don't need to comment. I have a new mic that I'm still trying to figure out. So apologies for the slight delay for the YouTube listeners, for the pod listeners. Welcome back to Burning Questions. It's an exciting week for me. I am on Wildcard. It is quite early in the week, so I don't know how your tinkering process works, Harry, but I started tinkering since yesterday, and I think anybody that hasn't tinkered yet with Wildcard 10 are going to run into a lot of budget problems. I mean, we've lost so much value against you Gameweek Wildcard 8ers. So it's a big worry for me, but happy to discuss it with you and get your feedback on it as well. So, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, when I played mine 2 weeks ago, the Saturday night, I made about six or so transfers. I'd actually been out for dinner and drinks for one of my friends' birthdays, and I got home and saw my team on a big red arrow and was like, I've had enough of this and played it. It was the right decision in the end, but yeah, getting price rises early is very key, particularly the longer you wait playing your wild card because you're already going to be behind in terms of team value.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so first of all, we have our teams up here. On the left, you have Harry's team, which was on a wildcard 8. Hence, you can see the guys of Bowen. Congratulations, by the way, and Watkins, Cash as well as the big guy in Salah. And you can see my team on the right. Let's first assess you wildcard 8ers versus us non-wildcard 8ers in the last two game weeks, because I did gain rank, definitely, but I should have gained way more rank compared to what I expected, because the likes of these template picks in Game Week 8 wildcard also did very, very well. And a lot of his non-wildcarders also lost a lot of rank if you didn't have Sterling in Game Week 9 or Game Week 8, if you didn't have Embuemo in Game Week 9, for example. So it's these little differences, and then obviously the non-Holland people have obviously wildcarded Salah and done exceptionally well. And so FPL Pig, for example, shout out FPL Pig, went no Holland and did really, really well. So lots of little variations that could have made huge differences in swings, and the variance was tough. Let's not kid ourselves. But talk to me about what you think of the two different directions that people went.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm still very happy when I look at my team and the wildcard draft that I've put together. Like I've got two free transfers this week, and we'll talk about it. I just don't see very much that I particularly want to do. Last week was a really good week for it, particularly because I captained Salah. And if I look at it again this week, if I make that decision again and I captain Salah over Haaland, then I'm flying again. I'm at the time recording, I'm on a small red arrow with 3 to play. I basically need not them all to blank, like one return against Fulham from any 3 of them, and I'll get a green arrow, which is fine. There are a couple of things this week which have gone against me, and you just have to accept that sometimes. Like Alvarez's goal, I'm not going to sit here and complain about players I don't have, but like the Alvarez goal where he mishits it and like he scores, like fair enough, these things happen. Like Trippier again, Trippier is a big one, but like he passes it to Murphy, Murphy tries to cross it and it loops in the back post. And then the Salah one where I decided not to captain Salah, and Salah gets a penalty and scores a 94th minute counter attack. Like these things, the 3 things that could have gone wrong for me this week did all go wrong, and I feel like they all went wrong in a way that's a little bit like annoying. Like it's not Trippier putting in cross after cross and getting it. It's not Alvarez like being really focal and getting lots of chances. It's not Salah scoring great goals from open play. It's little things like this that, like, fair enough, like these things have gone against me this week. I still look at my team and I'm still very happy with it. So yeah, hopefully starting from one of the 3 tonight, get me another green arrow, 2 green arrows. Yeah, I mean, those saying in the chat about the Bowen goal, hands up, I put out on Twitter.
I was just about to say that. I was just about to shut you down, Harry.
I tweeted on Twitter, I was very surprised.
As well as the Salah pens, as a non-owner, regardless, I get it. Yeah, I get your frustration.
The Bowen goal, I was very surprised that stood, but yeah, here we are.
So, so the point I was trying to make, Harry, is that I feel like I should have gained more than the points I got, and I think you must feel the same way as a wildcarder as well. Not so much.
Yeah, there. Do I feel like I should have? Yeah, I maybe feel like I should have gained more rank than I have done, but I've gone from 1.5 million to 500k in 2 weeks, which I cannot complain at all. And now I'm sat with a team that I think competes very well with wildcarders. My squad value is really strong, and it's actually pretty strong even compared to other people who wildcarded the same week as me. So I feel like I'm still in a pretty happy place with my team. Maybe I should have, there's a little few things there that went for me, some went against. So I'm still pretty happy with the team I built. There's not much I really want to change.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the key when you just said value, because now I totally sort of see why people, I did see it in Gameweek 8 as well, but there's just a few differences between a Wildcard 8 and Wildcard 10. But we've lost so much value on guys, and maybe that comes to hurt us or haunt us down the line, especially when we have to play our free hits and other chips as well. But I can already feel the effects of it in Wildcard 10. So my budget is like, let's call it decent or below average, I would say. It was good, but then I think I lost a lot of value in the last 2 game weeks. So we're going to sort of assess this is a wildcard special, so this is specifically for wildcard 10ers. But as we talk about Wildcard 10, for those that are not on Wildcard or have played it or have saved it, it can also apply to you as well. So hopefully this episode sort of helps everyone is the intention. So right off the bat, I just want to show this is sort of overall chip usage, I believe. And looks like 34% have played the Wildcard. I expect this number to increase drastically this week, maybe past 50%, 60% potentially. And then there's other alternative ways to play the game, and you can wildcard, and I think Game Week 14 is a decent period. Game Week 18, 19 after the free hit is a decent period as well. So you can't play it in 19, right?
No, 19's the last week you can't play it.
19's
the last week. You can play it going into 19. You can't play it after 19.
Correct. So so there's 2 other alternative slots I see, 14 or 19, right before 19. But besides that, I think Game Week 10 is going to be probably the most popular wildcard territory.
I agree.
So, these are just numbers.
I was surprised that this number was... I'm surprised that this was this low, actually.
Yeah, me too.
I'm surprised that... Is this overall... It wasn't, because I know Live FPL do overall and top 10K.
Overall chip usage.
I was surprised that it was only 35%.
Yeah. You expected it to be higher.
I thought more. I expected it to be higher.
Yeah.
Particularly with the amount of people who get bored early on and play their wild card. Yeah. I imagine after this week, I imagine it goes up quite a lot, but we'll see. I was surprised to see the only 30% before this week had played it. But I agree. I don't think there's massive. After this week, I know you mentioned Game Week 14. I don't see. To be honest, if you're not playing it in Game Week 10. I think you hold it. There will be situations where like certain people's teams need it more than others, and you might get injuries or something, and that's fine. But I think if you don't play it now, you hold it to at least Game Week 16. I don't see many people wildcarding between Game Weeks 11 and 15.
Yeah, good point. Basically, you can hold your wildcard now if you had, I think, Salah. I think Salah is like the main key factor of why people need to wildcard, because it's not easy to get to him. It would be 2 transfers at the minimum, plus potentially 3. Yeah. So I just can't go any longer without Salah is the decision I've made myself. And there's decent fixture swings, but the more tinkering I do, I don't know if I really have an edge against you guys, Harry, if I'm being quite frank. So we'll see. We'll see what you think as I present the different options. But first things first, maybe we can first talk about sort of the pros and potentially cons of Wildcard 10. I think mostly we talk about the pros. So for me, I thought that, on the other episodes, if you go back to my episode with Seb last week and even the previous one in Game Week 8 that we did, we really go into depth about fixtures. So that is still relevant, I believe, if you want to go back to that. But essentially in a wildcard 10, for those that want to have a simple summary of why we are wildcarding, is that you have the potential to load up on Arsenal, but it's not as easy as it seems, because as I've been doing tinkering, it's hard to fit 3 in with the budget that I have. So it's not as straightforward as you can triple up on Arsenal, okay? The second thing is you can get some Liverpool, and Brighton is what I thought, but looking into it this week or today, maybe 1 Brighton maximum, because Estupinan is apparently out till early November, which is a week or 2 out from here, Harry. But you know, it's too risky, and you're going to lose value on him, I believe. So that's another factor that I thought was going to help us in game week 10, but I don't think so as much. But can you get to Tsimikas, Salah, and 1 more Liverpool is a question that many will ask themselves this week. You have the luxury to hop off the 3 Spurs assets that most likely everybody has, whether you're on wildcard 8 or not, or at least 2, right? And then do you de-risk, let's call it de-risking, from Villa and Newcastle, who have good fixtures immediately, but tougher fixtures from about 12 onwards. And Villa is a mixed bag. Game week 9, they had a tough game. Game week 8, they had a tough game. Yesterday, they had a very explosive game, right? So where are we with the Diaby situation? Douglas Luiz now appears to be an option, although I felt like he played much deeper. And then the biggest advantage would be to get to the budget enablers that we do have, which are Cole Palmer, Tsimikas, guys like Gordon, even Maguire. I know it sounds crazy, 4.2. So things like this is basically what I see as the advantage. But go ahead.
Yeah. I suppose the thing with the wild card is this week is, I mean, hopefully you got Mbuemo's points last week. And I think you were probably hoping that more changed between game week 8 and game week 10 than has changed. A lot of the players are still the same, not necessarily because they've performed, but just because the fixtures are still there. A lot of us went early on some of the assets like West Ham, Villa, because of the fixtures they've got coming up. So the landscape actually isn't massively different to how it was in game week 8. But as you say, there are certain players which can allow you to do things like Cole Palmer, like Tsimikas, which if you're a wildcard in game week 8, you would not have owned, which you might want to own now. So there are ways that you can steal an advantage now. Maybe it's less than you hoped for when we wildcarded in game week 8.
Yeah, but you see, even there, Harry, like Cole Palmer with these tough fixtures, yes, I get the rotation with Guehi, and we'll get into that. You can sort of rotate Guehi, and basically if you have Cole Palmer, you need Guehi, I believe, right? Because I just don't trust him as my 7th attacker. But he's a placeholder for, game week 16 to 21 when Chelsea's fixtures get amazing. So these budget enablers don't instill super confidence in me, because even guys like Gordon, who are more expensive, is great, and he's the 3rd highest scoring midfielder actually since game week 5, but his fixtures get tough, and I know their XG is high. I know Newcastle's amazing, but slots like that, I have question marks for. So again, the value is just dropped immensely. Is what I've been feeling as I've been tinkering. Before we get into the first draft, I just want to mention a couple of budget enablers specifically for the podcast listeners as well. Tsimikas, Guehi, Harry Maguire in the defense. Maguire very short term, but 4.2 if you really need the funds. Midfielder, I would say Souček has appeared. Gordon, Neto, Palmer, Douglas Luiz. I'm probably missing a couple. Please feel free to comment. So that's about it. In terms of budget enablers.
The only other one is Lascelles.
There you go.
Because it doesn't sound like we're going to see Botman probably before the next international break. He might play game week 12, but I would wonder if they won't rush him for that, given it's Bournemouth. So that would give Wolves away, Arsenal at home, Bournemouth away. He's 3.9 as well. Okay. I'd probably prefer that to Maguire, but I suppose you have the risk, of course, of Botman coming back.
I forgot to mention Taylor as well. I think he's going to be in pretty much everyone's draft. 3.9 defender. That's starting. He's starting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he does play for Burnley is the only thing, who are conceding goals for like absolute fun at the moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he's there because he's 4.9, but yeah, the only thing to say about Taylor is if he's still got his spot in game week 18, which is the blank game week, he has Fulham away, which if worst comes to the worst, at least you have a decent enough fixture for him if you had to play him that week.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, actually, very good shout as well. Adingra, right? Is that how you spell it?
Yes. Yeah.
Who apparently Marsh is out as well, so he has the potential to be starting in the immediate fixtures. So maybe an option, but is he worth the downgrade in funds from Mitoma, would you say? Like, can he cover what Mitoma does?
Can he well, I find it hard to answer. Mitoma, I definitely feel like is the best one to go for.
Mm-hmm.
But I also quite like Ansu Fati at the very similar price, who's playing number 10 as well. I can't answer the question of how many minutes I think they're all going to play. That is why I continue to think I will not own any of them. Just because if we look at their fixtures over the next 4, they play... So it's Fulham, Everton, Sheffield United, Forest, and then they play Chelsea away. Then it's Brentford and Burnley. Like the next 7 weeks are nice, but what are they going to play 4 or 5 of them? Like, I think if you get 5 of the 7 starts, you've done like well.
Yeah.
And then I look at players elsewhere who will play 7 out of the next 7. So do I think the upside of Brighton scoring more goals than all those other teams that I'm considering buying players for is worth the gamble? I don't know. That's why Adingra becomes quite appealing, because you're not investing so much, so the risk is less than with Mitoma and with Ansu Fati. Yeah. I do have a route that I could end up with Adingra in my team as a sort of placeholder until Cole Palmer's fixtures get better, but it is something I'm considering. We'll see. I do think he's one worth looking at. Again, let's see who lines up for them on Thursday evening as well, because they are rock bottom of their European group, right? So they have to win their European games. They can't be like Villa and rotate their team in Europe. They have to win all their games now if they want to get through the group, which is another added concern.
Yeah, so you just think heavy rotation is on the horizon?
Yeah, I just look at some of the others and I think, do I want to take the risk on Mitoma, or do I want to buy someone else at around that price? Do I want to go for a Gordon or a Neto, or do I want to take the risk on Mitoma? If I knew Mitoma played every week, great. I suppose the threshold is, what percent of games do I think he needs to play for him to be a better option than those others? And I'm just not certain that he meets that threshold at the moment.
Yeah. Good points. Okay, so let's begin. Basically, what we have here today for you guys is 4 different drafts, and then we get to our bust teams at the end. So, usually when we do burning questions, we talk about fixtures, we talk about data, we talk about teams or specific players, but because it's a wildcard special, I thought it's just better to sort of show drafts and talk about the players and teams as we talk about the different options that we present to you. So basically these 4 drafts are based on my team value, which is definitely lower than Harry's, who wildcarded in game week 8. And again, as I mentioned to you guys, my value is sort of, I would say, average or below average. I think around there. So it's a good. If you have more budget than me, then great. You have more options. If you don't, then maybe you can sort of follow this path of how I've been tinkering. First things here is a unlimited budget type of draft. So this is not affordable by any means. I don't think for anybody, literally. So why I presented this is I want to show kind of what the key players that people want in Wildcard 10, but you can't have them all, is sort of the Wildcard FPL phase that we always use, right? So first things first, Harry, would you agree with me that Areola and Turner are the no-brainer keeper standouts?
So we were talking about this yesterday, and I said, do we need to do keepers? Because surely it's just Areola and Turner. And as a result, I went and put a tweet out, and I got a lot of replies telling me that it's probably like they would go with something different, which I was quite surprised by.
But who?
The main couple were Leno. If you have the money over Turner, he rotates much better with Areola than Turner does, but he's up to 4.7 million now.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, do you need Turner? Do you just go with someone cheaper? But because most of us own Turner at 4 million, you're only saving 0.1 there. So I do think it is worth, in case he keeps his place. There's always, oh, he might lose his place. He might lose his place, but it hasn't happened yet. So Areola for me is like a no-brainer. It's just what you do with the other spot. If you have loads of budget, then it's probably Leno. He rotates the best there. But Areola's data is actually not that great. He makes a lot of saves. I think he's had a save point in every match so far this season. So I do really like him. It's just what you do with the second spot. But if I was on Wildcard, I would go probably Turner. There's some saying Flecken, some saying Leno. Those are the other two, if you have the budget, that I would consider going with. But I want to play Areola most weeks, so I would probably just keep Turner.
Okay, cool. I agree with you. I mean, I didn't consider Leno. I considered Raya for a second, but he had a sort of a howler of a game, and with Champions League around the corner, maybe there's rotation with Ramsdale, maybe not. I don't know what Arteta's sort of vision is with the keeper situation, but I just think Areola's...
Yeah, I would not go with Raya.
Yeah.
Watching him the City game and then the Chelsea game, I would definitely not be owning him. Enough individual errors in those games.
Yeah.
And he just looks nervous.
Yeah, pressure's on.
He looks like a keeper playing under pressure. Exactly. And that is not what you want when you have a Ramsdale as a backup. So I would never take the risk on Raya now.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say 100% I wouldn't take the risk, but I agree with you. There's something underlying here, right? He moved to a bigger club. He's got Ramsdale in the background. There's tons of pressure on him. I mean, they're trying to win the league, right? So I do agree with you. There's too many individual errors for me to be fully convinced that there's no chance he loses his spot. And also, he's expensive, right? And for us...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
It's often you pick a keeper because they're the cheapest route into the defence that you want to buy into. And we have a Arsenal defender who is cheaper than Raya, and might not be 100% nailed as we've seen so far this season, but there's enough that Raya plus you'd have to go for a 4.0 defender is equal to Areola and Gabriel, and it just screams which is a better option.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, and so just to convince you guys on why I think Areola is a good keeper option, forget about team budget and all that. It's that West Ham were bottom of the fixture ticker from game weeks 1 through 9, and now their fixtures get really good. And with the keepers, let's just play the fixtures. And it's hard to predict clean sheets anyway, so might as well hope that they get some clean sheets in the easier fixtures. And maybe that's the reason why his data wasn't that good, Harry, because they were the bottom of the fixture tickers from game weeks 1 through 9. And that's about to turn. And Turner rotates really well with Areola. I mean, you're not going to play Turner too much, but I think it's game weeks maybe 14 and 19. There's 2 slots where you could potentially play him. One for sure. I think it's game week 14, possibly. But besides that, you just keep playing Areola, and hopefully another keeper transfer extra transfer you have shows up in due time. So let's just leave the keeper discussion there, and all the drafts that we present to you will have Areola and Turner.
Yeah.
So again, this for those joining, this draft up here is we're going to work backwards. This is a unlimited budget draft. If you had super unlimited money, of course you could get more expensive players, but in the spectrum of Wildcard 10 sort of picks that people are considering is the point, is what I'm trying to say. In defense, the popular ones seem to be Cash, Trippier, big question mark. Tsimikas seems to be in most people's draft just because he's going to be starting and affordable. Then there's Gabriel or Saliba or double up defense, which is very hard to get to. And then you've got Taylor as your 5th defender at a super cheap price of 3.9 and starting. In the midfield, I've included the likes of Saka, Salah as the first 2 picks that I think most people will go to. Then it becomes sort of iffy. I wanted to keep Son, so I just kept Son in there. It could be Matto as well. Then there's Bowen, Mitoma, and then sort of you trickle down to Gordon, Palmer. And then if you want to be a little different, you can go double Arsenal midfield, for example, and keep Martinelli and Odegaard alongside the likes of Saka. And then up top, I just think Watkins and Holland are just set for now. I mean, I was super scared yesterday because I got a rank kill by Watkins, but he could have absolutely gone ham as well. So for me, I think Watkins is a lock as well. So this is sort of the template, unlimited budget sort of draft that most people want in Game Week 10. Would you say anything's different here or add anything to it, Harry?
No, I just to have a discussion on a few of those players. So the first one, as people are saying in the chat, Tsimikas, right? He came off after 61 minutes at the weekend. Does that cause any concern to us? Is it because actually he just lacks a little bit of match fitness? He hasn't played very many minutes, so they don't want to rush him back into 90 minutes. Or does that concern us that he's going to want to start Tsimikas in every game and take him off as soon as he feels like he can't run anymore?
No. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that was all on Tsimikas, so go with him first.
No, I think it was game state. I was watching the game. Something happened for him to come off. My memory is shot right now, but there was a reason why he came off in the 61st minute, I believe, right?
Okay.
If there's anyone in the chat, please help, because there's something that happened in that game that led to him coming off early, that led to Klopp making a switch early. I think it was a red card on... Everton had a red card. I think that was it. Yeah, correct. So I think he wanted to get attacked. They wanted to attack more, so I think Klopp made a tactical switch. I don't think it was a injury minutes or build him up type of issue, Harry.
Interesting. Hang on, let me just get this up then. So he came off
61. Yeah, there was a red card. Ashley Young.
But Ashley Young came off got sent off after 37 minutes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, fair enough, but yeah.
I mean, think about it. He gets sent off the 37th minute. They have 11 men against 10. You know, they don't want to... Klopp probably doesn't want to attack too early. So 60 minutes seems like, okay, now let's attack for the last 30 minutes, is my sort of thinking. Yeah.
It's true, because he also didn't come off. It wasn't Joe Gomez who came on. That's if it was Gomez that came on, that's when I would be concerned. But he took off Konate for Matip because Konate should have been sent off. He brought on Elliott for Gravenberch and then brought on Darwin for Tsimikas, or whichever of those two midfielders. So he brought on an extra attacker. So yeah, it probably is game state.
Yeah.
Cool. The other one that people are questioning in the chat is Gabriel. Mm-hmm. He has been great for them since he's come back into the team. Mm-hmm. Do you worry about it happening again as we saw at the start of the season? He has been really good, but everyone said, well, he's back in the team because Zinchenko's back in the team. Zinchenko got hooked at half-time against Chelsea. Is there any concern about him?
Very slight concern, but I think the very first 2 games or 3 games where Gabriel was benched was a little bit more experimental to cater to Havertz. And now with Jesus sort of firmly as the number 9, I do think that Arteta realizes that Gabriel plus Saliba combo works better than him trying to do that 3-back situation there. Yeah. But again, he said in an interview early in the season that the reason he took Gabriel off is because of the opponent, which could be true, right? And with European fixtures as well, I wouldn't be surprised if you get an odd benching here and there. So maybe Saliba is the more safer pick, but again, it's not affordable for wildcard tenors.
Yeah, I mean, people in the chat saying there's lots of reasons why Gabriel didn't start. It's just, I suppose, if it is easier fixtures and they want to control the game, the fixtures they got coming up that we're buying them for are the ones that could potentially happen in, right? But I bought him, and I understand the risk, but I think it's, if you have the money, I would buy Saliba because I think it's not worth the risk.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, fair point. Okay, so again, this is the unlimited budget draft within the spectrum of our Wildcard 10 popular picks that people want. So this is not affordable to anybody. Just to clarify that. So again, we're working backwards. If this is the team that, if I had the money, I would want, what can I do with the different sort of options? And if you think about like sort of drawing a graph, and you have at the top like the ideal team that you want, you can go down, and the first thing could be, okay, let's take out Trippier, and then there's like 18 different permutations of how you can get a draft without Trippier. So this is not the answer or textbook answer that you guys are seeking, but sort of my thinking, and you can mix around different players to cater to these different types of drafts. And then you decide which works for you according to your budget, right? So that's the idea here.
Mm-hmm. Out of interest, do you know how short this draft was of money?
Like 4 million or something like that. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So there's no chance you can afford it.
Yeah, yeah.
Even I think even if Wildcard 8ers tried, I don't think they could. Yeah.
No.
Okay. So here's the first sort of permutation, or what's the right word? First change that we're getting into, which is keeping Trippier. So let's talk about Trippier. I know you're very opinionated on him, so talk to me, because I've had him for 3-4-5 weeks now, and he's been a blessing to my FPL team. Yeah. So
I'm opinionated on Trippier that I think he's a great asset that I can't own. Basically, is where I stand on it. Their defensive fixtures are sort of coming a little bit to an end, but that doesn't mean Trippier is a bad asset. It just means Newcastle defense is slightly less appealing, but it still means that Trippier has the same value over the likes of Burn, over the likes of Botman when he's back, and Shaw. He still has the same value on top of them because he still has the attacking threat there. He has 6 assists so far this season from 3 XA. If he hadn't have got, I think the assist. So like the assist last week where he tackled and Almiron scored, and the assist this week. If he didn't get those 2 assists, people, I'm not sure, would be owning him on Wildcard. People would think it's an acceptable way to get off. However, because he's got those 2 assists, it's then led him to go and get maximum bonus points in, I think, both of those. He got 2 at the weekend and 2 last weekend. And 16 points in those 2 games makes him very, very appealing as a result. I think he's a great asset. The data he's putting up over the past 4 or 5 weeks is great. But I think Tsimikas is another reason why I think it's acceptable not to own him. Because you can now own a defense, which is Cash, Tsimikas, an Arsenal defender, Gabriel, and Burn, for example, those 5, and you're spending 1.5 million less than if you bought Trippier and a 4.0 defender. So I just think there's enough ways for me to combat Trippier over the next few weeks, and it just hasn't gone well right so far, but I feel like it will.
Very, very fair points. I think that's the thing psychologically I'm struggling with, because he's been so good to me. It's like, how can I get rid of a player that's been basically saving, a good chunk of my season so far, right? And while I do agree with you, Harry, that he's been lucky in some ways, the counter argument to that, in my opinion, is that he's also very, very involved and super attacking, and Newcastle look just amazing, fixture proof against any team, is the thing that I'm wrestling with. Because yes, their fixtures get tough, but to go without a Newcastle asset seems very, very odd to me. At least in my head is what I'm struggling with.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I suppose just because you don't go with Trippier doesn't mean you have to go with Burn. Mm-hmm. There are enough other good defenders that you could pick at the moment that means you don't have to go with him. I understand why psychologically, if you don't go Trippier, you want to cover that Newcastle defense, but I'm not sure I'll start my Newcastle defender this week. So yeah, It's probably the hard. I think it probably is the single hardest decision on wildcard this week.
Definitely.
And it was 2 weeks away, 2 weeks ago as well. So, yeah.
So Newcastle have
It's
Wolves, Arsenal, Bournemouth, Chelsea, Man United, Everton, Tottenham in the next 7 game
yeah.
weeks. If you did not go with Trippier, you would say it's okay to just forget about Shar, Burn, Botman.
You can definitely go with him.
Mm-hmm.
You can definitely go with a Burn, and I probably would, but I don't think it's unreasonable to go without him. I think the key thing with Trippier is Cole Palmer or Adingra. I think if you're going Trippier, and you kind of need one of those two in your midfield, which is why I probably will not own Trippier until game week. Their fixtures from game week 16 or so start to get a little bit better, which is when the Chelsea fixtures look really good. So you can easily go then Cole Palmer and Trippier. It is very affordable then because Cole Palmer's fixtures are great. Whereas now people are like, I don't want to play Cole Palmer every week because the fixtures are not there, which I completely understand. So yeah, it's just the lack of option for me to free up the money to go and buy him at the moment.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's someone at my door. I will be 30 seconds.
Yeah, go ahead, Eric. Yeah.
Just hold the fort.
What's going on? Okay, so wow, first time solo in my life. So for those joining, once again, this is a Trippier draft that we worked backwards from. The core players that we all want are Trippier, Saka, Salah, Son, Watkins, and Holland in a ideal Wildcard 10 draft, but unfortunately that's unaffordable. So here, if I wanted to include Trippier, I think the easiest way would be to let Son go, but Son would become Palmer in order to afford the other people in the draft. And there's issues with this draft, right? Because Spurs still have a decent fixture in game week 10. So there's no Maddo, there's no Udogi, there's no Son for you. So that's kind of the way I got to this Trippier draft. Again, there's different ways to get to this Trippier draft as well. Wow, this solo stuff is hard. I don't know how this guy does it on a daily basis, but yeah, let's sort of wait till he comes back before I move on. Yes, he's back. I think you're muted, Eric.
Had to sign for something. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't know how you do that. That was tough. So I was just telling everybody that to get to a Trippier draft, what I did was essentially Son to Palmer. And then if you have Palmer, my advice would be to somehow fit in Guehi, because Palmer and Guehi rotate well. And I just don't trust Palmer as my 7th attacking option on a weekly basis. So I do want to play the fixtures that rotate well with Guehi is the only other thing I would add to a draft like this. But, in order to afford Trippier, you basically have to let one of the core guys go in Trippier, Saka, Salah, Son, Watkins, or Holland.
Yeah. Well, this is it. And I was like, well, I'm taking on Trippier every week. But if I own Trippier, then I'm taking on Son every week. Like, it's that you've got to pick one of those assets that you just don't go with. This draft is basically the same draft as I put together with Trippier in, and you have no Spurs in it. That is then what concerns me. Is you're taking on all of Spurs with this draft, which I think I hate even more than going against Trippier.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's a weak draft. I feel like it's a weak draft. I agree with you. Maddo, Son feels fixture proof in many ways, and thank you, Paul, by the way. But Alex Misha, good to see you, Alex, also says rotating with a 6-point defender is not optimal. I agree with you. I don't like the idea of rotating Palmer and Guehi just to fit in, Trippier, who, as you mentioned, might have gotten lucky with the attacking returns, have tough fixtures moving forward. But again, somewhere in the back of my mind, as someone that got the Trippier points in the past couple of weeks, it sounds crazy that I'm letting this guy go, is how I feel.
Yeah. I just look at this draft and I think that's probably not where I'd free up the money. I just think that midfield just does. Yeah, I just think you're missing too much. You're missing out on too much
Fair.
with Palmer in there. But Palmer has looked really good. And as a Chelsea fan, I have to say he has been very, very impressive. So yeah, he could continue to do well. The fixtures are just very tough.
Yeah, if you have Palmer instead of the likes of, let's say, Susech, for example, Game Week 16, you're ahead already, right? Because I think Game Week 16, we're going to want potentially Palmer plus Colwill plus Sterling. Who knows? Maybe that's when Chelsea are really finding the rhythm. And they look like they're having some attacking rhythm as well recently.
Yeah. Like, it depends. It depends what your perception is of Palmer, whether you like this draft or not. If you think Palmer's a good enough option, then this draft is, like, absolutely good enough. Yeah. He has taken 2 penalties, so he is Chelsea's penalty taker. But, yeah, it's just with those fixtures whether we think he can continue to do it. But he is focal to everything we are doing at the moment. So I completely get it. In Game Week 16, when the Chelsea fixtures swing, I'm pretty sure I will do someone to Palmer and I will get Trippier back in my team. I think that is... I just have to know that that's what, like 5 weeks I'll go without him.
Yeah, fair. Okay, a couple of shout-outs. Good to see you guys. Delia, great to see you once again. I see some familiar names. Russell, good to see you. And everybody else in the chat. Go ahead.
Just on a very good comment from Caldino. If we think Adingra is going to play, you could do Palmer to Adingra, and then you don't have the fixtures worry, because when the Brighton fixtures end, the Chelsea one starts. So you could do Adingra for 5 weeks and then do Adingra to Palmer.
That is a great point.
And then you probably don't go Matoma, and you probably do something else in that spot, or you could end up with double Brighton midfielders. Yeah. So maybe that's the way to combat it. And you go on the Brighton fixtures for the next 5, and then you go on the Chelsea fixtures, and you just rotate that cheap midfielder spot at the moment.
Okay, great. So once again, I'm going to show this, which is the ideal Wildcard 10 unlimited budget. And what we do here is the next draft I want to show is lose Trippier, keep Son draft. So I'm losing Trippier, but I'm keeping Son. And the reason I did this is because not only do I want Son, I just think he's fixture proof. But the issue with keeping Son, and I need to be very objective this week because this is a very long-term wild card that I need to plan, and I'm in good rhythm in terms of my FPL game weeks, and I just don't want my bias to affect my decision making, Harry. So the issue with keeping Son is that he's 9 million, which doesn't seem like so different from like 8 million Maddo, but that 1 million can go a long ways for us wildcard tenors with very little value. So what happens if you do this is Palmer and Gahey come in instead of Bowen and Trippier is the way I presented this draft. Again, you could lose Trippier, keep Son, and find different ways or permutations to create this draft, but that's sort of where I found my found it best in terms of this vision.
Yeah. I to be honest, I like this draft even less.
Interesting.
I suppose like Gabriel, you would start over Gahey, and that's interesting. Just going back to your Trippier draft.
Oh, sorry about
that. Yeah. But the issue you've got is your defense is so strong this week. It's like you are benching like someone really good. If you go Tsimikas, Cash, Gabriel, Trippier, that's the issue with Trippier as well. Particularly this week is that you are putting a great defender on your bench. Whereas if you go this way, for example, you don't need to do that. Bowen is a key error or a key player missing in this draft. For me, he is a lock if I was wildcarding this week. There is no chance I would build a wildcard without Bowen. I don't know how much this has in the bank, but I would find the money somewhere to do Mitoma to Bowen. I do not want to go into their fixture run without him. He was very lucky to get his goal yesterday, but he is so focal to everything that West Ham are doing at the moment. That's the key thing that stands out. Mitoma and Palmer in your midfield. And this is it. And it was a question we had earlier on, and I said we'd talk about it. It's the Son, Maddison, Saka debate that is going on, not just for people on Wildcard, but for people not on Wildcard as well, is which two of those to own, really. Because with Salah, you then can't own all the others unless you don't go Haaland, which we will talk about in a minute. But you have to then ditch one of Saka, Son, and Maddison. And if it is Maddison that you ditch, you are sacrificing elsewhere in your team. If it is one of the other two that you ditch, you are strengthening the rest of your team. This has gone Saka, Son, which is probably my favorite as well. I do think Son is a better option than Maddison. But with your team value, I don't think it's a good idea.
Wow, I didn't know you're this convinced on Bowen. I'm struggling to grasp my mind on Bowen because I think for me this draft is Son versus Bowen, you know? And I feel like Son has more haul potential in any fixture. But I get it. I mean, I think Bowen's, again, game weeks 1 through 9, West Ham, bottom of the fixture ticker. It's about to turn. Bowen, the key talisman. I think he got a very lucky goal against Aston Villa. Let's not kid ourselves. But yeah, fixtures breed form, and I didn't know you were that convinced on Bowen. Yeah.
Yeah, I just look at those fixtures and I look how central he is, and I understand that there's a chance that if Antonio drops out and Kudus comes in, I'm pretty sure they put Bowen up front, which makes him an even better asset. So yeah, I can't see a wildcard draft. But then I suppose you are, you know, if you bought Bowen in here for Mitoma, you probably do Son to Maddison. So then it's Son and Mitoma versus Bowen and Maddison, which I can understand why it's a debate to be had at the moment. Because Son is for me is a better asset than Maddison. Maddison is consistent. Son is explosive. But Son is over a 10-game week period. Son outscores Maddison in my opinion. So I can understand why you do that, but also if you did the Bowen Maddison route, you leave enough money in the bank to also do Palmer to an Anthony Gordon or something as well. So if you put that third change in, there, I think Son down to Maddison, Mitoma to Bowen, and Palmer to Gordon is better. Yep. I think.
Yeah, this is good. Just one thing on Son is that I remember 2 or 3 seasons back, maybe it was 3 seasons back, the season where Bale was still around, he had a good season, right? But it wasn't the Golden Boot season. I think it was the season before or previous to that. I was playing very differently, where I was just kind of like, I just had Son the entire season basically, right? I just forgot about I didn't care about fixtures because I just wanted him in my team. And then sort of that year after, I switched the way I play. But that season I had him throughout the entire campaign, and he just, you're right. You have him over 10 game week periods. He will tick along. He will find a way. And Spurs are playing well, right? They're playing in a different system. They can go top of the league once again tonight. So I think we shouldn't talk so easily about play the fixtures when it comes to Son and Maddo, because I really think that they could tick along even through the tough fixtures. But if it's a like-for-like comparison between Maddo and Bowen, of course I would go Bowen. If it's a like-for-like comparison between Son and Bowen, then yeah, maybe it's a tougher decision. But if there's different ways to accommodate, for example, Maddo and Bowen over the likes of Son and Palmer, then yeah, maybe that's the better combo. But struggling to let go of Son and Maddo is what I'm saying. Even though my bias is there, it's also just a really, really good feeling that I have that I think they're going to continue to tick along.
Yeah, it's also good, of course, they don't have any Europe, which is always a boost, particularly when we come to the latter stages of Champions League and people might, need to play strong 11s to make sure that they're qualifying. So, yeah, I still want one Spurs, but their fixtures are more difficult.
It is. It's mixed
for
bag.
Sure. They have Palace away, Chelsea at home, Wolves away, Villa at home, City away, West Ham at home, Newcastle away. That is a difficult run of fixtures. Yeah. Their easier games of Wolves and Palace are both away from home. Then at home they play Chelsea, Villa, West Ham, Newcastle.
Yeah.
It is a difficult run. So I think this is why most wildcards don't have any Spurs defence in, and I completely get it, and I agree with that. It's just what you do in midfield. But Son has performed in those difficult fixtures so far this season, more than Maddison has. Maddison is forced a little bit to play a little bit deeper when they play against some of these more difficult opposition. He becomes a little bit more of a playmaker at times in those games. So I completely understand why you want Son.
Yeah.
And I have the same decision for those not on wildcard. I have Son and Maddison, and I do not have Saka, and I want Saka.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that when we talk about my team. It's just those little things. Personally, if you don't have the team value, I do think Maddison over Son is a downgrade I'm willing to make.
Yeah.
And I see Bowen as a much better asset than Matoma, just based off minutes.
Yeah, yeah. No, fair. I mean, also, no, Gameweek 10 is a good fixture for Spurs. Crystal Palace, I feel like it's a decent fixture, right? So it's tough.
Palace have been so mixed so far this season. I find it really hard to decide whether that is a good fixture or not, because, like, looking at some of their results, they've been, like, at home, they've not been bad. Like, they lost 1-0 to Arsenal at home. They beat Wolves 3-2. They drew 0-0 with Fulham. They drew 0-0 with Forest. They haven't conceded loads of goals at home. Whereas when you look at their away fixtures, they lost 3-1 to Villa. They drew with Brentford. They lost their home form is not bad, but maybe that's fixtures, at home.
I mean, while we're on this topic,
and they play Monday, Friday as well, which seems really weird that they've done that. But of course, they want an extra game on the telly. But why stick a team that doesn't have any Europe on a Monday and then a Friday? It just seems bizarre to me. But anyway, it's not good for someone like Son, who might be carrying an injury, right? 3 days rest for him.
Yes, but he did play 90, and we'll see. We'll see how many minutes he plays today. And you're making a good point before we went live about you saying you'd like to see Spurs get a penalty today just to see who takes it, right?
Yeah.
Because definitely Maddo might take it. I would assume Son will take it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Maddo takes it. I mean, I think we're getting really deep into this Tottenham conversation, but might as well, because it is a key issue for wildcarders this week. Let's look at the fixtures, right? Crystal Palace, Gameweek 10, low block team, maybe a better Maddo fixture, but Son has historically done decent. Then you get Chelsea, which is a great Son fixture. Then you get Wolves, which is they're quite attacking. They're quite attacking, but I would still say sort of a lower block team, so potentially could be tough for Son to score there. Or it could be a good score, tough to assess, basically. Then you get to 13, Aston Villa, great Son fixture, super high line. You get to Game Week 14, Man City, great Son fixture. Yeah. Loves to play against Man City. Champions League quarterfinals, I can remember. Since then, he's been on tear against Man City. Game Week 15, West Ham, great Son fixture, I would say. And then 16, Newcastle, I mean, tough. Obviously, all of these fixtures are tough, right? Spurs could lose all these games. I agree with you. I agree. I get that, but Postecoglou has not proven how to beat the low block, even against Luton. Because if they scored in the first 10 minutes, yes, the game would have been different, but they didn't, and they couldn't figure it out, right? So, I just think. But they
created the chances to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't finish them. They created the chances to beat Luton,
right?
Easily.
Mm-hmm.
They just the result looks like they didn't. But if you watch that game, the first 10, 15 minutes, they could have been 2 or 3-0 up, and then this whole narrative of they can't defeat a low block is not there. So
okay, fair.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about that, because I think, and Son was very, very focal to that again as well. So yeah, we'll look at it when you talk about my team, but I Son versus Maddison is a big one, and I feel like it will continue to be the same every week. You'll own one of them, and it will be what it will be. This team is nice. It's just whether you want is the, for me, sacrifices you make on Palmer and Matoma over Bowen and Gordon worth Son.
Yeah, it's a great team, but like you just summarized it perfectly. You're losing Bowen, and the weak link is Palmer and Gahey. It's a you can cover it. You can say Palmer is a good option, whatever you want to say. that he's in place for game week 16, blah, blah, blah. It's just a weak link. Palmer and Gay, to me, are weak links, I believe. But before we move on to the final draft, I want to ask you about Mitoma. Mixed bag, right? When it comes to Brighton, either they do super well or they struggle. I think Mitoma's been coming a little deep to defend, which is not great to see. And if he can't dribble past players, there's no alternative option for him. Like he's so exceptionally good at dribbling that it's the only way he knows how to play. And if there's games where like he's blocked off from dribbling past players, and then he's basically not relevant, right? So I am sort of struggling with Brighton or Mitoma because their fixtures are too good to not have even a single player on your team, which is why it hurts that Stupinan is out. But what's your assessment of Mitoma, Harry?
Yeah, I'm the same a little bit. He's one of those players that when you watch them, I do worry about his positioning. His positioning is very, very wide at times. Now, he's a great dribbler, so he can get from that position to positions where he's dangerous. But I suppose I haven't watched them enough over the past couple of games to understand what Estupinan being out does to Mitoma's positioning. And I don't know if you've watched it as well, because when I compare it similar to what we see with Saka and Ben White on the right side of Arsenal, because Ben White doesn't overlap very much.
Okay.
Whereas if you look at Arsenal's left-hand side, Zinchenko often goes wide. It allows Martinelli to pull central. Whereas on the right-hand side, Ben White does not do that, which is why we see Saka play so wide at times. When you look at the Brighton side, Estupinan can get wide, which allows Mitoma to come central at times. Sometimes Estupinan goes central. I haven't watched him enough to know what happens while Estupinan is out, but I don't think he's got returns while Estupinan's been out. But they have had difficult fixtures, or did he get one assist? Let me have a look at Mitoma's returns.
It makes sense, though. It makes sense what you're saying. I mean, just two attacking forces on the left is much scarier than just one.
Yeah, so game week 7, 8, 9, they did play Villa, Liverpool, City, but Mitoma has a total of 5 points. And he's got 0.7 XG in that and 0.1 XA in that time.
Mm-hmm.
It is difficult fixtures, and fixtures do bring form, but I think there is something to be said about Mitoma when the Estupinan's not in the team.
Yeah, I'm struggling with the Mitoma one as well, but okay, great. Let's move to
I would rather... The last thing on Mitoma is the issue is if you can't get to Bowen at 7.4 or whatever he is now, Mitoma looks like the next best option at that price, at under 7 million. It's just whether you go to a Gordon and leave the money in the bank. Or is Mitoma a better option than Gordon, right? If you had 6.5 million, would you buy Mitoma or would you buy Gordon and leave $1 million in the bank? I probably would buy Mitoma if I was in that situation.
Yeah, but I like Gordon as well.
Yeah, so do I.
Third highest return since game week 5 for midfielders, and I just like having a Newcastle asset in my team as well. So yeah, Mitoma one I'm struggling with. I don't by no means is he a lock in my team by any chance. But okay, great. So guys, thank you for joining us today. Please do hit the like and subscribe to Fantasy Football Scout. What we've been doing today, for those listening and joining in now, is continuing to show different permutations and different draft versions. This, once again, is the unlimited budget draft. And then the final draft I want to present to you guys before we get to my team as well, my wildcard team as well as Harry's team, is this final one is forget Son, keep Maddo draft. And we'll see what happens. So far what we did was keeping Trippier draft. We did lose Trippier, keep Son draft. And then the final one is forget Son, keep Maddo draft. And all these drafts are based on my budget, which is sort of an average or below average team value, and much worse than the wildcard aiders who have gained a lot of value over the last 2-3 weeks. And things like getting cash is what really hurts because how much was cash when you afforded him, Harry?
I think I bought him at 4.9
Yeah, exactly. So
or 4.8.
so I bought him at like if I buy him now, it's like he's like 5.1, 5.2, you know. So
Yeah, 4.8 I bought him for.
yeah, so those stuff makes a big difference. So this one again is the Forget Sun Keep Maddo draft, and what we have, what happens here is that Bowen now becomes an option, and then basically the midfield just got way better, right?
Yeah. For me, this is better. This is the
Yeah.
changes that I was saying, right? Gordon, Bowen, Maddison for me is better. People in the chat are big fans of Matoma. When I know Matoma's playing, I absolutely love him as an asset. I just worry about the minutes that they've got coming up. But this team for me looks really strong. This is probably why I would go with the fast wildcard in this week.
Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, unfortunately you can't do Gordon to Matoma. I don't think from my budget. Maybe from your budget you can do it. But Cash, Tsimikas, Gabriel, great fourth option in Gehi, who have great fixtures moving forward. Taylor, Archer, bench is pretty much set. And then yeah, it's just a very, very strong overall draft. Obviously the missing ones are Trippier and Son. Maddo can become the likes of anybody pretty much when it comes to game weeks 12 or 13 where Spurs fixtures get tougher. So you can hop on the emerging midfielder if you want to keep it flexible and have a price point where you can go down to. So that's sort of the advantages that come with this draft. Earlier on the show, Harry, we were talking about doing sort of how we cannot get to a double Arsenal defense or double Arsenal mid. Is there any potential here where you would fit in a third Arsenal spot?
Yeah, you do it in place of Maddison, wouldn't you? I think because you do Maddison to Martinelli, as Alex has just asked in the chat as well. That's probably where I would do it if I was going to. That's what I was just looking at. I was looking at his price. Yeah, Maddison down to Martinelli is something that I would consider because the Arsenal fixtures, you know, Sheffield United, Newcastle, Burnley, Brentford, Wolves, Luton, like they are better. They are definitely better. It's just the Trossard factor. You know, Maddison's going to play every week.
Yeah.
Well, if Martinelli misses 1 or 2 in that 6-game week run, then it changes things.
How about
you always have the Trossard factor, and Trossard came on for him the other day and scored.
Yeah.
So you're going to have that every week. That's the concern. But people in the chat do want Maddison to Martinelli in this draft, which I would consider. Yeah, I would consider, but it's not impossible that Trossard starts against Sheffield United this weekend.
Yeah, it's too rotation risk. I do think so too. But Martinelli is so explosive.
He's so good. Yeah.
How about
maybe you don't need him every week.
Exactly.
Maybe he only needs to play every second week, or 3 out of 4. So I would definitely consider Maddison to Martinelli.
Wait.
Frees up money as well.
If you have Martinelli, you need to play him every week. There's no chance I would.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. No, for sure. But you run the risk that Arteta benches him. I mean.
Right. How about defense here? Is there any way you can fit Saliba in? I don't think Zinchenko is an option, right? Just too rotation risk.
No, especially after the weekend. Not. I mean, I don't know how much this has in the bank. Probably not very much, right?
Very little. Yeah.
So, I mean, without downgrading one of them, like Gordon again down to Palmer, without downgrading Maddison to someone who's not Martinelli, not really. Yeah. But I'm fine without the double defense. If I was going to double up on Newcastle, it would be an attack. I think there's enough other good cheap defenders.
You mean Arsenal?
Arsenal even.
Yeah. Okay, fair. I think that was a good sort of practice session, let's call it, of running through the different drafts. Pretty. Hopefully that helped. And then let's already past the hour 5-minute mark. So yeah, let's get to it. I'll just finish it off. Go ahead. Very quickly. There is one way that you can answer all of your problems. No Haaland. And that is by there's the no Haaland. I feel like we have to cover it, right? Because if you don't have Haaland, so for this draft, if you don't have Haaland,
Gahey goes up to Trippier, and Gordon goes up to Son.
Yeah. Sorry, let's go back to it. You mean this draft, right?
No. If you keep the one you just had on, if you have, oh yeah, which like the last draft you showed, you basically get Gahey up to Trippier. You do Gordon up to Maddison, and you do Matoma up to Bowen, and you do Haaland to Alvarez. The team looks so nice when you take them out. I know it does look
nice. Yeah.
You have Saka. You could even do Maddison to like Martinelli. So you have Saka, Son, Salah, Bowen, and then another premium midfielder. You have Watkins and Alvarez, and then in defense you have Cash, Gabriel, Trippier, Tsimikas. Like the team is so nice when you take him out.
So why didn't you do it in Game Week 8, Harry?
Because I thought he'd score more points than he has done over the past 2 weeks.
Do you think he's lacking a bit? Do you think he's like not as explosive as the generation talent that we know him to be of? Or is this just a patch that
he scored 8 points he scored 8 points at the weekend, right? I think the bigger thing is that Alvarez continues to match him. That is the concern. It's not Haaland is never a concern for me. The concern is Alvarez continues to match him.
Yeah. It's definitely more spread out, the goals, in terms of those two than last year. So maybe that's Alvarez is the direct reason why. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Like he could easily do a hat trick this game week, for example, right? So. So
I wouldn't sell him.
Yeah,
but the thing is, my team value is good enough that I don't need to sell him, and I don't make enough. For me, basically, the only thing that changes is I get Trippier. I make maybe like a upgrade a Gordon to a Martinelli or something like that. But
yeah, but you also get Bowen and Son plus,
Yeah, so but like I would have them anyway because my team value is good.
Oh wow.
If your team value is not good, then I think the reasoning behind it is stronger because it allows you to get you're not sacrificing as much.
Yeah.
Whereas or you're sacrificing more than I would.
Yeah.
To get him in.
Yeah. It would take a lot for me to get there this week. I don't think I'll end up there. Yeah.
Well, this is true. Like, and this debate about no Haaland isn't happening if Everton didn't get a red card and Salah didn't score in the 97th minute. It's probably true.
It is probably true.
If Salah comes away with a 7-point haul, a 7-pointer, and Haaland scored, 8, like we don't have the debate, do we? I still think that he's there. United with Evans and Maguire in defence next week, then Bournemouth at home. Yeah, I still think Haaland is a good asset. It's just whether you want to go Alvarez instead of him or with him. Like you could do Matoma to Alvarez.
Yeah.
In all of your drafts.
I felt like Salah was possibly going to blank until what was it? Maybe 60, 70 minute plus.
He was not involved in that game.
He was not involved. And as a Haaland owner, I was happy I captained him, and I thought that Salah would blank. And obviously, he's got him. Yeah. Like everyone's gonna bring Salah in this week, and he's not gonna get penalties anymore. And so you guys just got the penalties at the right time. I feel. Yeah. But sorry to moan. This up here is my team, Harry. My wildcard team that I have right now. Again, very early stages. There's going to be a lot of changes, I think, but it's for the reasons that we talked about for the last hour and 10 minutes. That I'm trying to do everything to keep Son, but I don't like that I don't have Bowen. I do agree with you there. So this is where I'm at right now. Having Son definitely affects sort of the other spots. So I have to assess whether just going Maddo is better, but we did read out the fixture tickers, and I do believe that he is fixture proof and can haul, and I'm just betting on those hauls coming in the next 6-7 game weeks when his ownership becomes super low. So yeah, that's where I'm at with the team. I don't think I need to speak more about my wildcard draft.
No, I like it. I think this team is strong. The only thing is Bowen, but Gordon and Son versus Bowen and Maddison, right? That's your decision on this draft, really, isn't it? So
Correct.
the rest of it, I don't imagine you'll change very much between now and the deadline.
Yeah.
It's just those, Gordon, Son. Yeah, I think it's about the same money. I imagine you can afford it, right? Gordon, Son, or Maddison, Bowen, which you prefer. So it's pretty close as well.
So we'll see. Guys, please do hit the like and subscribe to FFScout. And that was it for all the wildcard stuff. Let's actually get to your team now. And you've been moving up the ranks. You've been doing really well. Great value as well. 2 free transfers, I believe you have. Please read out your team to the podcast listeners.
Yeah, let me get it up. So I've got Areola in goal. My defense at the moment is Cash, Gabriel, Udogi with Dan Burn first on my bench. Salah captain, Diaby, Bowen, Maddison, Son with Haaland and Watkins up front. So this is kind of what I was saying. My team value here is pretty good, right? So it allows me to get Haaland without feeling like I massively downgrade my team elsewhere. Burn versus Udogi is the first debate that I have this week. I'm going with Udogi at the moment. And I imagine it will probably stay that way. Wolves have only failed to score once, but Palace are much better at home than they are away from home. So not certain on that. The other thing is do I find a way to get Son in? Saka in. I can easily do Son to Saka this week. Or if I do Maddison to Saka, I have to free up the money. Now, the only place that I see myself wanting to free up the money is selling Diaby. But I don't want to sell Diaby before Luton. So I could do it next week, right? And do Maddison and Diaby to Saka and Gordon next week, for example. But if I do that next week, then I have to find a transfer to make this week. And then I don't know what I'm going to do. So it's all around watching Spurs tonight, deciding if I want to keep Maddison or Son. There is a chance that I keep both of them. The Spurs fixtures over the next 2 are Palace away, Chelsea at home. Arsenal play, Sheffield United at home, Newcastle away. I don't think it's clear who scores most points over those next 2 games. So I might end up waiting to game week 12 to get Saka. And if I wait to game week 12 to buy Saka, I will most likely sell Maddison and Diaby to do it. So, yeah, that's the plan. But if I decide to wait a week, then I don't really know what transfer to make because I don't want to sell anyone.
Yeah, tough position, right? There's nothing really you need to do with the team.
If I had one transfer, I'd roll. That's the issue.
Yeah. Can you upgrade Udogi maybe? Can you just begin the process of getting rid of your Spurs players? Because eventually you're going to get rid of Udogi, right?
Yes. But I don't necessarily know who to at the moment.
And just play Burn.
Like
I see.
Right. I could play Burn, and that I'd be fine with that. The other defender that I'm looking at, of course, is Tsimikas. Like I could do Udogi to Tsimikas.
Yeah, you should do that. I think you should do that. Or even Burn to Tsimikas.
Yeah, well, one of those 2 to Tsimikas is probably where I would go if... Yeah,
I agree.
That's probably what I would do.
I think you should do that. Just because you have the Saka stuff in the back of your mind, just head towards sort of the template that's been forming after Wildcard 10, right? And you're in a luxury position to do it.
Yeah, if we watch tonight and I decide that I want to keep Maddison and I'm happy to sell Son. Like if they get a penalty tonight and Maddison takes it, then Son to Saka I'll probably do. But then Saka's not even on penalties half the time anyway. So, but yeah, I probably do want to keep Son. And I think if I can use my team value to my advantage and have a midfield that is Son, Saka, Bowen, Salah with Watkins and Haaland up front.
Crazy.
Like I think I should take that advantage that I've got.
That's a huge advantage. And then who would your 7th attacker be? Like 7th.
I downgrade Diaby and I'd play him in and around that price, right? I'd play the Gordon.
Gordon, you can get Gordon.
I think so. I could do Son. If I do Son to,
keep Son.
Diaby to, Diaby to Gordon, Maddison to Saka, I can afford,
And even Diaby to Mitoma is possible too.
No.
Okay, so it'd be Gordon. Yeah, that's an amazing 7 attacking lineup.
Yeah. with the features that they've got coming up long term, I kind of feel like I wouldn't need to touch it really, apart from that Diaby spot. But I want to give Diaby Luton. Like, yeah. So that's the plan.
Nice. That was great. That helped me a lot. So Monday, it's still Monday here. We've got a lot of time till the deadline. Deadline's on Friday, I believe. So
yes, it is Friday evening deadline.
So don't miss
Crystal
it, guys.
Palace versus Spurs.
Yeah. And quick word for the wildcarders that have activated. Just be on top of price changes this week. FPL statistics is where I go. We had a live FPL visual up there, as well as all the drafts from FPL.team. Shout out Peter. So yeah, stay on top of price rises. Yesterday, the day before, Tsimikas rose. Yesterday, Watkins rose. So you don't want to miss out on these 0.1s, especially with our low value. So that was fun.
Yep.
I hope that helped to everybody. Please do once again, hit the like button, subscribe to FFScout. Any last words, Harry?
No, I plugged my own, but I've got a wildcard video that's out at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning on my own, which has again for you like a normal draft, like a no Haaland draft, and then a Haaland and Trippier draft all in, which are quite similar to what we've spoken about today, but there are a couple of the things like changes that we spoke about. But no, it's good to be back. It's nice, and it's always good to get your thoughts out in the open. So yeah, thanks for another nice pod. We'll be back next week.
Yep, we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.